Welcome into the Mike Herndon Show, Week 8. I am Mike Herndon. This is Easton Freeze, Director of Published Content for BroadwaySportsMedia.com, which, of course, is the website that brings you this show. How are you doing, Easton?
I'm great. I'm incredibly busy. I am 2 days away from getting married now, so I'm super duper busy, but the football season does not end, so I'm pulling double duty. But I won't lie, it's been very hard to everything else in my life seems unimportant right now. So I'm going to pretend to care about Titans football for the next couple of days and then ignore it for the weekend.
Yeah, remembering back to my wedding, which is now going on 10 years ago. We're not quite there yet, but almost 10 years ago.
You got married when you were 18, right?
Extremely hectic. Yeah, I was 12, child bride, you know.
Right.
But no, it's extremely hectic time. It's a fun time, but it is wild, and just, you got to make things slow down around you. That's my advice.
That's what I've been told. So that's what I'm doing. And was planning a wedding in the fall a good idea? No. Did I know that at the time? Yes, but it's just the way that it worked out. So here we are, and we're making it work. So, but we're here. We're here to talk about the Titans, and my wedding can wait a couple more days. We've got some film once again to get into this week, which is exciting. Last week we had to kind of make do with some bye-week chatter. Now we've got film from the Titans in Week 7, their sweep of the Colts. An interesting, ugly, very gross, very classic divisional Titans-Colts style game. A lot to garner, I think, from this film. We've got quite a bit of it to go through today, and we're going to kind of key in on a handful of players.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like to, I think this game should forever be remembered as the Matt Ryan's career funeral game. The Titans just buried him in Nissan Stadium.
What is it about the Titans ending prominent careers? Like, you saw the Titans turn Tom Brady and the Patriots to dust. They buried Matt Ryan well before he should have been or expected to be buried. They just, for some reason, they end these careers in unceremonious fashion.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers needs to be on the lookout when he.
Yeah, it's true.
Later this season.
That's a great point. Russell Wilson in a couple weeks. I mean, they could send an entire Hall of Fame class packing right here. You don't know.
You never know. It was especially the way the defense is playing, and we can start there from a film standpoint of the Titans got one very key player back, and that was Bud Dupree.
If only somebody had been saying they should get this guy back, it's going to make a big difference.
Exactly. It's we've talked about Dupree before and how much they've missed him, and I think that's been a theme of this show, really going back to, I guess, the Raiders game when it was the first game that he really was fully out for, and this game against the Colts really drew a hard line around why he is so important to this defense. And it's not that the Titans pass rush completely fell apart without him, but it just goes to a totally different stratosphere with him. Danico Autry's still a good player. Jeffrey Simmons still a good player, but they're better players when Bud Dupree is out there. And I think it's crystallized for me just that after watching Dupree, and I broke down the numbers at paulkarski.com this week about his on-off splits, right? So the Titans are, almost producing twice as many sacks per game in games that Dupree plays. At least I think the cutoff was 29 snaps or something like that, which really, if you look at his snap rates over all the games that he's played since he's been with the Titans, it's 12 or under, which are obviously the games where he gets hurt, or 29 or more, which are the games that he mostly plays. So that's why I use that cutoff. But games that Dupree is in, they are almost double the sack rate games that he's out in. And we're at 13 games with him in and 11 games with him out at this point. So the sample size has gotten large enough that I feel like it's not a good idea to ignore it anymore. If it was 1 or 2 games, sure, but over this much sample size, it's very clear Bud Dupree has a significant effect on the Titans pass rush as a whole. And we can start with this play here.
So this is the second interception of the game that he forces, the David Long interception.
Yes, and this is the one that really, I think, most clearly shows the effect that Dupree can have, because Dupree is not. He doesn't always win cleanly, right? He's kind of a guy that has this powerful bull rush, as you can see here. I mean, he goes with kind of a hezzy bull combo here on Dennis Kelly, and just, I mean, he plants that face mask on his chest and blows him back. And that movement, him just collapsing the left tackle, immediately it just compresses the cylinder. And you'll hear Coach Mack talk about this. You'll hear Greg Cosell talk about this. But the cylinder being kind of the quarterback's safe space, like the quarterback's bubble around him. A good pass rush compresses the cylinder. And, ideally you want to puncture it too, right? Like you want one guy that's getting free, but you want a tight cylinder because that gives him no room to escape. There's nowhere to go. And that's something that Dupree does really well, even when he's not getting home.
Wasn't it you, correct me if I'm wrong, were you talking on Football and Other F Words earlier this week about how this pass rush is still successful without Dupree? And they tend to have a guy win oftentimes, but it's just a single guy, and the cylinder isn't being compressed, so the quarterback has room to escape or maneuver in the pocket, shake the guy that wins, and still have some time to throw, as opposed to when you have the full complement of players in there, you get multiple guys winning, like you said, not necessarily puncturing the pocket, not fully winning the rep, but getting that pushback, forcing a smaller pocket, forcing the quarterback, kind of backing them into a corner, right? That's just as, if not more effective than one guy winning his rushing assignment.
Exactly. Yeah, it truly is. And the way the Titans operate largely as a pass rush, truly is they hunt as a team. And this, if you can pull up the clip with, it's the Simmons sack with an Autry assist, I think is how I labeled it on there. Or not Autry, Dupree assist. Yep. It really kind of illustrates the point of how he makes these guys better. So if you'll watch this, Simmons is lined up over the right tackle, 72 there, the Braden Smith. And the Titans actually, this is a pretty nifty blitz that they run here. So they've got Amani Hooker and David Long mugged up in the A-gaps, which, looks like, kind of your typical double A-gap blitz, which, is an effective blitz. But instead of bringing both linebackers, they actually crash down and run a stunt off of those two, the safety and the linebacker, and bring Simmons around, and he comes completely free. Now, Matt Ryan is not a very mobile quarterback, and there's a decent chance Simmons would have had him dead to rights anyways. But watch Dupree on the opposite side against Kelly again, and watch how close he gets and how he's closing in. Ryan has nowhere to go. There's nowhere to escape, and he can't do anything except eat this sack with Jeffrey Simmons coming down the pipe. Now, if and I don't know, I keep trying to call him Autry. If Dupree is still over here, at the line of scrimmage, or if he gets, stoned at, somewhere else, maybe Ryan's able to make Simmons miss just enough to get the ball away and either throw it away or maybe attempt to pass to somebody.
And any other more mobile quarterback probably is, like the Derek Carrs or better are going to, if he's not setting that edge there on the right side of your screen, that's just you step to the side situation.
Yeah, exactly. And it matters that there are other people around the quarterback as somebody comes free like that. So that's kind of where I think, you really see Bud Dupree's impact is on plays where he can not even necessarily sack the quarterback, but just be near the quarterback, or put the tackle near the quarterback. So he's able to do that frequently, and that is really a difference maker. And that's why you see these just enormous splits between with him and without him, because he's excellent. Like he's almost never stoned at the line of scrimmage. He's going to get near the quarterback. Now here, look, he's unblocked, right? So you don't get a whole lot of credit for being unblocked, but I think the difference here with Dupree being on the field versus anybody else, say it's Mario Edwards or any other guy that they would have out there, is Dupree is a fantastic athlete. And if you look at get off rates, which, next gen stats now tracks, and you look, Dupree is consistently among the top guys in the NFL in get off rate. So he gets off the ball in a hurry. He's an explosive athlete. He gets upfield quickly, and you can see how quick he closes the gap to Ryan here. And Ryan has no time to even collect the ball and throw. And this ends up being the pick six for Andrew Adams. But Dupree helps make that happen because of how quickly he's able to get upfield and close the gap and just force Ryan into a panic throw here. So I think you're seeing these examples of just why he's so effective, that they popped up all over the screen. I mean, it was constant.
We've got quite a few clips here. I'll just kind of cycle through from him as you continue to detail.
And here's another pressure, again, like he doesn't quite get here. He's very close. But he is making Ryan step up in the pocket. He feels Dupree, right?
He's accelerating that internal clock, which is
Exactly.
is what you're trying to do, right? I mean, it's short of getting a sack or a quarterback hit. That's the goal.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and that's why pressures matter so much, right? Because, when a quarterback is pressured, when he feels that and he knows, and you can tell Ryan knows on that snap, hey, I've got to step up right now because he's right behind me, and I've got to get rid of this ball because otherwise he's coming for the strip sack. And
that was on third down as well.
Yeah, so he gets rid of the ball quickly. He's forced to throw it right into a jumping David Long who bats it down. And then again, just pressuring, being around the quarterback, forcing his clock to speed up. Dupree gets a good rush here. Again, Matt Ryan's not comfortable with a guy behind him. And so as he goes behind him, he's just like, all right, I'm dumping it down. I'm checking it down. I'm getting out of this play. So anytime you're able to do that, and Dupree is just constantly around Ryan in this game, he dominated Dennis Kelly. I think he had 7 pressures according to PFF's charting, and I think Next Gen Stats actually had him with 8. Mm-hmm. But he's, just almost every play. And here he cleanly beats him. Now Ryan does manage to avoid him here, and it looked to me like on this play, Dupree kind of his eyes got wide, like, all right, I'm about to get a strip sack here.
Right.
And it was not expecting Ryan to suddenly feel it and move out of the way. And
this is a perfect example of how one guy winning is not nearly as effective as everybody hunting together, right? Because they're, for even a statuesque potted plant quarterback like Matt Ryan, he can step away with enough speed to, it ends up forcing the check down, but still he's given himself time.
Yeah. And that's a perfect example of that phenomenon, and how when you have a compressed pocket, that kind of play turns into a sack. But
here's one of him you said you labeled this as him cleaning up his own pressure. I've not seen this one. So what happens here?
Yeah. So this is actually his sack. And you can see kind of his motor here. So he is able to split split this chip with Jonathan Taylor. So Dennis Kelly actually has help, but he just runs right through the chip, gets the pressure, and then
what a terrible effort by Taylor, by the way. This is special.
It's pretty weak. It's pretty weak.
I get he's trying to chip just long enough to go run a route. So I give him some grace for that, but it's still rough. I mean, he doesn't do anything there.
No, he doesn't do much of anything. But Dupree's motor, and that's the other thing with Dupree, like, he is a hair on fire kind of guy. Like,
he may have the highest motor of any of these guys on the Titans front.
He plays ferociously every snap that he's out there, and he will be chasing you down to the whistle. He and Jeffrey Simmons are both like that. But Dupree stands out because he's so explosive too. So you can really see him get extra efforts in, and they are full speed efforts. So I just love the way Dupree plays football. He's not the cleanest pass rusher in the world as far as, he's not a Watt, he's not a Bosa, he's not a Myles Garrett. He's not in that caliber, but he does so much well. And look, even going back to when he signed with the Titans, there were reports out of Pittsburgh, and I think it was Ndidi Nkambwala, who was very tied in with that team. ESPN reporter said that there were internal discussions. There were people in the building in Pittsburgh that they had long discussions about whether they would prefer to keep Bud Dupree or prefer to keep TJ Watt. They
TJ Watt,
knew
wow.
there would be a choice ultimately, but that's how much they respected and liked Bud Dupree in Pittsburgh. And it was hard for them to choose to let him go. And obviously the Titans have benefit. Now, he's got to stay healthy. Like, that is the big caveat to all this.
It's the
They are
glaring
paying
flaw
him
to him as a player, for sure.
they're paying him $16 million a year, and you do not pay that for a guy to play 13 games in, a year and a half, basically, at this point. He's got to stay healthy, stay on the field, and keep producing like this. But when he is out there, he is worth every penny of that contract. So stay healthy for the rest of the season, and then we'll see about 2023. Right. But I think the Titans defense can stay at this level, which, over the past 4 games, this winning streak now, they have been, a top 5 defense in the NFL. The metrics, season-long metrics, aren't going to catch up just yet because, the Bills game was obviously a total debacle. But as we continue down the path of the season, I think the Titans' defensive ranks are going to just rise and rise and rise season-long wise. But right now, they're already there. And that's going to continue to be better with Dupree out there.
To put our month-long Bud Dupree argument on this show, kind of tie it up with a bow, I think what is demonstrated here and what our point is this: he is well worth his contract in terms of his talent. His availability is what's not worth the contract so far, right? And that's something that we haven't, there's not finality on that yet. Let's see what he does the rest of the season, but that's really the only thing keeping him from being worth more than that. Because I mean, here's an interesting question for you, Mike. We haven't unfortunately been able to see much of him and Harold Landry together healthy. So we haven't gotten a whole lot of that comparison on the field together at the same time. Of course, Landry just got this massive contract for the Titans, which, do you happen to remember the number on that? It was somewhere in the same ballpark.
Yeah,
right?
It was about the same as Dupree's. I think it was almost identical.
Right. So I mean, when both of those guys are healthy, who do you think the better edge rusher is?
That's a tough question. I guess I would lean towards, I don't know. I mean,
it's really tough. It's a close match.
It's very, very close. And I think Landry may be the better pure pass rusher, but he's a little bit more versatile. But Dupree does things that Landry can't do from a physical standpoint as far as the bull rushing.
Yep.
So I don't know. It's very, very close between the two. I mean, it really is splitting hairs. Now, Landry's 2 or 3 years younger, which may kind of be part of the
make him the more valuable player, I think, to me.
Yeah.
But yeah. So before we move on from the defensive line, you want to kind of tie this up with a bow. We got a couple more clips from the D line. This one is an Edwards and Tart pressure. Speaking of really talented defensive linemen, Tear Tart just continues to raise his future price tag, whether that's with the Titans or somewhere else. He's going to get paid big time.
Yeah. Tear Tart to me is probably the most improved player on this team this year.
Has to be.
His arrow's been pointing up really the past 2 years, but I mean, he's taken it to a different level as a pass rusher.
Well, he was a nice story in the past 2 years. Like, wow, that's a little nice find. And now he's turned into, this is a bona fide, this guy's going to get a top 5 at his position contract somewhere.
He's going to get paid for sure. And the Titans next offseason, he's going to be a restricted free agent, which means they can keep him with, I don't think a team would give up a second-round pick for the right to sign him. So I think they could probably protect him with a second-round tender. But that second-round tender contract is basically like a 1-year deal for about $3 or so million, which is still a really good deal for what you're getting out of Tear Tart right now. But we'll get him a little bit of a payday, and then he'll get really paid after that because he is playing really good football for them. And you can see here he kind of works this stunt with Dupree and pushes Kelly back, gets into Ryan's lap, and then Mario Edwards from the other side is able to this is DeMarcus DeMarcus Walker gets this one, is able to get the pressure and forces the throwaway. But the Titans defensive front as a whole played fantastic in this game. And I'm talking like Tart, obviously he had 3 pressures. DeMarcus Walker was playing pretty well. Mario Edwards, who I think has been a little bit of, I've been surprised at how much he's flashed in
So
the
have
time
I.
that he's been here.
Yeah.
I consistently see him pop up when I'm watching these games and go, who's 94 again? And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's Edwards. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty nice. So I'm seeing that a lot. And he was active in this game. So they're getting a lot out, and obviously Weaver's still playing pretty well. They've suddenly got that like ability to rotate guys through and still have a lot of dudes on the field on that defensive front again, and that really bodes well for them. And they're completely controlling the line of scrimmage in the run game right now with that group. So it's a fun group to watch at the moment.
So we saved the best for last with the D-line film. This is Jeffrey Simmons really manhandling a little-known offensive lineman in the league, Quentin Nelson, really just making him look foolish. May have been just a teensy little face mask situation here, but maybe. the point stands. I mean, Quentin Nelson is property of Jeffrey Simmons, per your meme last weekend. It's been rough in both matchups for him. It's been rough.
Well, and it's funny, for the longest time it was, hey, Simmons and Nelson is going to be, it's such a heavyweight fight and all this. And that was like, you've got to watch Titans Colts for this matchup. Honestly, it's been a one-sided absolute landslide in favor of Simmons.
It's been Bama, Tennessee for a couple of years here.
It has been. Simmons is clearly the better player. And you can see, he just bulldozes Nelson immediately 4 yards deep in the backfield.
He goes too far, actually. It's what forces the face mask. He's too successful with this bull rush.
Yeah, he actually goes past the running back here and has to reach back and try to grab at something. But yeah, it's just incredible to watch the brute strength of Simmons, and frankly Tart too. Like Tart had another play where he just completely embarrassed Nelson in this game on a pass rush. So they are stupid strong inside. Like those two guys are like, it's like comical. It looks like, cartoon stuff. So that's a lot of fun to watch right now.
So where do we want to go next? We've got quite a bit on the offensive line to look at. We've also got some clips from the offensive weapons and Ryan Tannehill. That's kind of the other two things we want to look at here. Where do you want to go first?
All right, let's start with the offensive line where, Dennis
you start with our boy Double D.
Yeah. Our boy, Double D continued to,
so give me the bad news first is what you're telling me here. Okay.
Yeah, it's another tough one for Double D here.
Yeah. And we are on full hashtag anything but Dennis Daly watch, according to me. I won't put that. You can join or not, Mike, but I've for a couple weeks now been on the crusade. Hashtag anything but Daly at left tackle for the Titans. And we got a couple clips here that tells you exactly why.
I'm with you. Yeah. This is the Titans did generally a pretty decent job blocking the run game in this matchup. And Daly had some moments where he was decent too, but this is like one of those things you just can't do. Like the Titans are running outside zone left. Everyone else is stepping the way that they should, except for Daly, who looks like I don't know.
He's gone rogue.
Is thinking it's duo or something like that, but he's stepping down and he gets into Brewer's way and doesn't block at all his assignment here, who's the end man on the line of scrimmage right there. So it leads to Henry rushing for I think 3 or 4 yard loss here. You just can't have this stuff. Like,
look at this still. You got everybody blurred moving to one direction, and Daly is holding his ground, moving inside. Where are you going?
And the sad thing is it's really blocked up pretty well, if not for Daly just wadding up the whole thing. Because, you can see, like, he gets in Brewer's way. Brewer's trying to climb to 58, Okereke there. And he probably gets there given how athletic Brewer is. So if Daly actually gets a hat on his assignment, it's entirely possible that they are blocked up across the board here. And that's a big run for Henry. Instead, it turns into a minus play and puts them behind the six, which this team cannot afford to be with the set of weapons that they're trotting out right now and the pass blocking that they're getting from one Dennis Daly as well. So it is you just cannot have those mistakes in a game. And yeah,
here's a total whiff. Yeah.
Yeah, this is maybe the worst pass blocking attempt I've ever seen. At the
how long you been watching football?
A long time, very long time. And I mean, it's too easy. I mean, he's not even making him sweat to beat him here. And this is basically what we saw all game against Washington. It's just too consistent right now. And you look and you're like, the Titans need to push the ball down the field. They need to find chunk plays in the passing game. They would love to, but I don't see how they can trust Daly to not get destroyed like this. And here's the Cardinals.
They cannot
on this play. Go back to the start here. Watch Hilliard. So watch 40 here coming out of the backfield. He's got chip help. Like he's sliding out. He's looking to chip. He goes inside, so he just leaves, which is what he should do. But Daly, knowing he has chip help, what can you not do? You cannot get beat inside.
Yep.
And he just leaves the barn door open, and here comes Ngakoue for the easiest sack of his career. It is just shameful, some of the stuff that he's putting on tape right now. I hate to be hard on a guy like I have been on him, but it is so bad. It's killing this offense. It just is killing this offense.
I would feel worse with how much we continue to rip on him if it was a situation where we felt truly this team has no other option. This is not a guy that is a starter, and they're just in a bind. They're having to start this guy. It's not his fault that he's in this position. You know what I mean? Like if it was just an issue where literally he's the best option by far, everything else does not work.
Yeah.
The frustrating thing is that they don't have great other options, but they have other options, which maybe we'll talk about it in a little bit. We've talked about repeatedly on this show. They have to try something else. They have to.
It's time. It's definitely time. I mean, it's just not. It's not.
Our buddy No Flags Film on Twitter at some point this week put it the best way that I've heard so far is just that, and this is harsh, Dennis Daly just does not have any redeemable qualities in an NFL starting tackle. There's nothing that you look at on film and you're like, oh man, he's rough around the edges. But look at that. There's a little flash. There's some ability that it's not there.
No, it's not. I mean, here's another rep where just complete bull. I mean, he's just Olayed. I mean, just completely whiffs. Doesn't even slow down 52 here.
His blocking style seems to be, let me get off and lean into this guy and just commit to a direction. And if I happen to match what he's thinking about doing, then great. And I'll just lean on him. Otherwise, I'm just going to fall down like a domino.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's the worst tackle play I've watched. And I mean, I guess I'd have to go back and maybe double check what Tyler Merritt's and Will Spitek were looking like back in the day, but he's up there with those kind of guys for the Titans.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough. And I've not checked PFF super recently this week, but if he is not the 72nd out of 72 tackles ranked on there, I really want to see who they have below him, because
he's got to be. I know he was
70th at one point. I know that much.
Yeah, so he's currently 75th.
Oh, so he's below. There are two backup tackles in the league that PFF thinks are better than Dennis Daly. You got all the starters plus two other backups, and then Dennis Daly.
Yeah, he's currently only ahead of, among qualifying tackles, he's only ahead of Matt Pryor of the Colts, who is a disaster in his own right and is now playing right guard for them, I believe.
Yes.
And Greg Little of the Dolphins, who I think is a backup for them, who's been playing for Austin Jackson, I think. But either way.
All right, well, let's get to some more positive news on the offensive line. And this one, this is kind of the first time we've been banging on this drum. a little Dylan Radin's praise from you in this game?
Yeah, I think he was actually. So major caveat being that he had, by my count, 3 mental busts. So he had the false start on 4th down, which was obviously a mistake you just can't make coming out of timeout there. He had a couple whiffs not whiffs. He had a couple mental busts in pass protection. Now, one was a really nicely schemed blitz by the Colts, where I think Radins was looking for a twist because his man crashed. And then instead of the twist coming from the other side, they brought a blitz from his outside into his gap, and he just never saw. It was I'm blanking on the guy's name now. The slot corner, Kenny Moore. They brought Kenny Moore. It's that first sack of the game that they got on that corner blitz. So I thought that was probably on him, and then I thought he gave up a pressure on to Buckner on a twist as well, where he just did not see the twist coming soon enough and could not get an arm on Buckner, and that was the deep ball to NWI that Tannehill threw under pressure. But so a couple mental busts, still getting used to playing that guard spot, I think is kind of part of the reasoning there. But physically, he held up well in pass protection. I thought he was really good on the ground. I thought he was actually a plus as a run blocker. And I think that's what we've got a couple of examples of here. He's working duo combo block with Nicholas Petit-Frere. And look, I mean, they're locking up and they're getting good movement on the double team, which is what you want to see. Like, you want to see that play is designed to get some push up in the middle and then let Henry go pick his hole, whichever hole he wants to leak out of. It gives the running back a lot of freedom. And obviously he chooses wisely here, gets a nice gain. But Radins and MPF getting movement on Buckner is a big part of this. That is, like, it's a double team block. You're supposed to win double team blocks, but you don't always see them get that kind of movement up front, and Radins and MPF did a really nice job there. And
Mike,
frankly, they did.
I want to run this idea.
All of those.
Yeah, I want to run this idea by you because I was thinking, I spent some time thinking about this on, I believe it was Monday of this week. When we came out of the game initially on Sunday, the feeling, and with offensive line evaluation in game, it's almost impossible. It's very easy to realize when somebody has a disaster game, when they're just allowing sacks left and right in their return style. But the nuance of it, as long as they're not a disaster, it's kind of hard in the moment without looking at the film to see who had a good game or not. So it's always a little bit of a guessing game. Even people that are professionals and know what to look for with offensive line. And there was a lot, the consensus seemed to be, this is how I felt. I know this is how James Foster felt. I saw a number of different people in the media press corps talking about this on Twitter and online, just that it is another kind of rough game for Radins. Yeah. But then you see the advanced statistics come out the next day, and he had quite a nice day. And then you see the tape come out, and he's got, like you said, besides a couple of errors, not a bad game at all. Quite a good game, actually. And so I went, and I am certainly, there's a reason that I am the one pushing the buttons here, and you're the one talking about the film, because that is not my area of expertise. But I do get to, in my line of work, look at a lot of it. And the more I watch, the more I feel like I have a grasp on it. I was watching the film just trying to figure out, okay, why did it seem like he wasn't all that great in the moment? But when you go back and look, it looks like he's doing all right. And here's the conclusion that I came to. And I heard Greg Cosell, it may have been on Buck Rising's The Install podcast with Cosell this week. Somewhere I heard Cosell talking about this in the past 24 hours that kind of confirmed this notion. I feel like with Radins, particularly in the run game, he struggles when his blocking assignment is a solo blocking assignment. When he is one-on-one, he tends to struggle in any blocking, but really run blocking in particular. But when he is given a duo assignment, he's a plus in the run game. Like we saw in that clip right there, he does really well. And I think part of that may just be his physique, his strength. But what are your thoughts on that? I mean, the good news for him in that regard is that the Titans do run a lot of duo in the running game. But it seems like there's a pretty significant difference in how effective he is when he is given a solo assignment or when he's given a teamwork assignment.
Yeah. I think that's mostly true. I also think he's actually pretty good when he's given the opportunity to climb to the linebacker. So when you're either running, when he's uncovered basically to the play side and he's able to climb to the linebacker level and block on that level, he does a really good job of that. He's a pretty good athlete climbing in space in the run game. So I think he's a positive in that regard. I think he's a positive on these duo runs, which they really got a lot of they found a lot of success with duo in this game, kind of running right at that Indy front. Which makes sense because Indy is largely like a speed-based team. And so if you're going to get them, you're going to get them downhill. And this is, again, like same play, in same combinations. It is Radens and MPF, and then you see Radens kind of peel off, and he's able to hook the linebacker there as well. But I really like some of what the Titans are doing in the run game right now, especially with these duo blocks. I mean, they were able to get movement up front and did a really nice job in this game, especially Radens and Petit Frere, which, if you look at Radens, and I think it's harder to see in game, on TV, but in person, Radens absolutely looks the part. Like this dude is huge. And I thought he looked like he was, like he had gotten bigger, this offseason. I thought, when I was out at camp this year,
he did look bigger.
He looked noticeably bigger.
Yep.
And definitely looks the part. he's a big, powerful looking guy.
Well, I remember last year looking at him as a rookie, he looked kind of similar to Brewer in build, not quite as small, but you looked at the line group standing together at camp and it was like, okay, there's Brewer, there's Radens. Now it looks like kind of Brewer is the, for lack of a better word, kind of runt of the group.
Yeah, the odd man out. But yeah, he's a big, powerful looking guy, and it makes sense that he should be able to move guys like this. But it's good to see him do it, and I think this game gave me some, and this is one of the busts that I mentioned. This is that more blitz off the corner, and you'll see what the Colts are doing to him. So this is a stunt that they're running with Buckner, and he is looking for the crasher, right? So what you typically do with a stunt from this set is Ben Jones will pass off number 59 to Radens, and then Ben Jones will slide off and pick up Buckner 99 there, which that is what Radens is looking to do. He is looking to pick up that crasher and take him off of Jones so that Jones can go take Buckner. Well, that just leaves that gap completely clear for Kenny Moore to come through. And frankly, it's almost hard to put that on Radens just because
it's a good stunt. It's well executed. It's
a well-designed play. It's well executed. You wish, and Moore does a good job of not really giving it away until the Titans are already in their cadence. So they do a really nice job disguising this. And frankly, there's not a ton you can do about that when the defense is just able to execute something at that level that's that well designed. But ideally you'd like to see him recognize that and at least be able to get a hand on it. Like, you can't block two guys, right? But you can try to slow guys down enough to where you can get your quarterback time to get rid of the ball and get out of there. You'd like to see him be able to do that, but yeah, I think that one is judging him pretty harshly to really put on him.
Agreed. So let's look at the rest of the offense here. We've got a couple of clips. This first one, we can start with this Henry run. On a zone look. It was one of his bigger runs of the day. What did you get from this clip?
So this is some beautiful blocking. I think the biggest thing I wanted to highlight on this one was really the backside. And you watch at the beginning of the play, Aaron Brewer getting up to the linebacker level, and you can see his athleticism here again. Like, look at how quick he is getting to that linebacker. That is a very difficult block to make. We talked about Nate Davis in our show after the Raiders game, making a block like this. Brewer is probably even better at it than Davis. And this is to me, this is the reason why Brewer has to stay in the lineup, because he is really, really a difference maker for them in these kind of blocks. And that is a big part of what they do, obviously. And so, yes, he is not the greatest pass protector, but he's not so much a liability in pass protection that it does not, I guess, that it overwhelms what he's able to do for you in the run game and in the screen game, which are both important parts of this offense. And
you know who he looks like with that get off? He looks like prime blocking Gronk, the way that he gets off the line right here.
Oh yeah.
I mean, so much speed for a big body.
He is scooting. And then also I want to, point out Jeff Swaim, taking the linebacker in space here, and he blocks him like all the way down the field.
Are you talking about backup long snapper Jeff Swaim?
That's right. Backup long snapper Jeff Swaim. And then you've also got so they keep playing Kevin Rader, which I continue to like. Like, watch the kick out block by Kevin Rader on the opposite side on this play. He's the tight end lined up to the right of Nicholas Petit-Frere. And he actually gets a pancake on this thing, puts the linebacker into the ground. The Titans, their run blocking has been pretty good. There's moments that are not good, but it's been pretty good. This Colts defense is hard to run on, which is hard for Titans fans to believe, maybe because Henry has put up like 100 yards on them almost every time they've played them over the last few years. But again, I think Henry has maybe 7 of the 9 100-yard games, 7 of the last 9 100-yard games this defense has allowed, which is crazy in its own right. But the Titans are doing a really nice job run blocking, and they'll face, we'll get into this a little bit after the break here when we get into Texans talk. They'll face one of the worst run defenses in the NFL this week, and I think we could see a massive, massive game for Henry, which we've become accustomed to seeing when they play the Texans. But I love the way that this was blocked up. Obviously, Henry's fantastic, reading it, hitting that cut, getting up.
I'd like to give a blocking gold star to everybody on this play except for NWI, who here is one block away from us seeing Henry's first house call on a long run of the year. He just can't quite make the last block.
Yeah, it's a really good play by Gilmore too. I'll give Gilmore credit there. I mean, NWI is trying to square him up, and then he just loses them. But really good play by Gilmore. And I will say, so my brother and I were at this game, and we were both crushed when that tackle was made, because we were really excited to see Derrick Henry tie the franchise touchdown record in person.
Oh yeah,
and so we missed out on that, which I'm guessing will now happen in Houston, which actually is kind of appropriate.
Fair enough. Let's look now at a couple of red zone, a couple of different looks in the red zone of this same touchdown here. A couple different angles. So this first one is the end zone view.
Yeah, so this is the throw to Swaim that they just missed, and you can see how close it is. I mean, honestly, Swaim probably needs to make this catch, because
Swaim needs to make this catch.
It goes off of his hands, and as my dad always told me growing up, if it hits your hands, you catch it. Right. But also want to point out, look, Dylan Radins against DeForest Buckner here, one-on-one in pass protection. Look at this. Look at Radins
holding his own.
It holds up well. That's nice. But then the other thing to point out here, look at Robert Woods on the backside of this, and look, Tannehill is probably picked out his preferred target before he ever goes to the backside read.
It's not a bad read. He's got Swaim. He's got him. He does.
He has him, and he makes a really good throw. So I'm not really saying Tannehill should have thrown it to Woods, but if he did go to the backside read, that's the easiest touchdown pass of the year for Tannehill. I mean, Woods is wide open, running through the middle of that defense. So in the sideline view actually shows how Woods is open.
I'll just say that Chig or Hooper is going to make that catch.
I would agree with that. I would totally agree with that.
Yeah. So here's the sideline view of the same play.
One thing I did love about this call, though, was again, and I think we mentioned it. They did this in the red zone against Indy the first time, and I don't know if it was the same play, but they got Woods for the touchdown on a similar play. But they also did it on 1st and 10 in the red zone. So
that one was actually play action, but yeah, it was a similar look with the route.
Right. But you'll see Woods. Woods is lined up in the slot at the top of the screen, and yeah, he's just coasting into the end zone there. I mean, the safety from the backside tries to kind of come over, but there's no way he's making a play on the ball if you throw it in front of Woods. So missed opportunity there, but overall, I thought that was a good design and a good opportunity for them in the passing game. And look, they've typically been super crisp in the red zone. They had 2 red zone opportunities in this game. Neither didn't convert either of them, and that's the only thing that kept this from really being a major blowout, frankly.
Yep. So everybody take a drink. We've officially gone well over, but you're welcome. It's a charity around here with our free portion of the show. We got 2 clips left here, and both of them are really nice tosses and catches between Ryan Tannehill and Austin Hooper, who had kind of his breakout game this week. So
arguably the 2 biggest plays of the game, I think you could say. This first one, this was the last field goal drive, and obviously that was the bobble catch and everything, which is an incredible catch by Hooper. But I've got to give a ton of credit, mostly here to Tannehill, because he was completely dragging a leg at this point, barely able to like move around on that ankle. And for him to kind of move out of the pocket here and then throw this thing on the run and put it on the money to Hooper about 30 yards downfield, just an incredible throw. And good play by the Colts to jar that loose, but
better catch.
Better catch by Hooper. I also want to point out on this play, Nicholas Petit-Frere does a really nice job kind of wadding up an interior pass rush move. And I think it is from Buckner on this play. And that kind of gives Tannehill that soft edge to peek out and get a good throwing lane and get that ball cut loose. So really good play all around by
fun little tidbit on that one. That was on 3rd down, I believe. And that play made a lot of people in Vegas mad, because maybe the most popular teaser of the week last week was to move Colts down in a 6-point teaser to +8.5. And if Hooper doesn't make that circus catch, they don't get into field goal range and they don't win by 9. So that I've heard multiple different very sharp bettors be not very pleased with that ridiculous catch.
They probably felt pretty good when they saw hobbling Tannehill running around out there with a 6-point lead.
Well, yeah, and just the fact that the Titans offense didn't score a single touchdown all day. If you told them that beforehand, they'd probably felt pretty good about covering that spread. But swing and a miss. Oh, listen, Fat Randy's going to do that to you. I don't know what to tell you.
It
just happens sometimes. He's a points machine. So here's the other catch.
Yeah, and this one is eerily reminiscent of Tannehill's throw in his very first start to Jonnu Smith, which was his first throw of that as the Titans starting quarterback. But this is just such a great job by Tannehill of one. I talk about his like pocket toughness all the time, and that he's one of the toughest quarterbacks in the NFL from the standpoint of he's going to cut that thing loose no matter, like, staring down the barrel of whoever. It doesn't matter.
He gets blasted here. He gets blasted.
Yeah. He gets absolutely destroyed by Buckner, who is right in his face, but he cuts this ball loose and puts it on the money. I mean, this
freeze frame is my favorite of any Titans film this year, because there's so much going on here, right?
Yeah, I mean, he is like, Hooper is covered. It's good coverage by the Colts. It is a great pass rush by the Colts. He is dead to rights here. I mean, and then he puts this ball the only place it could be complete. And I love him having the courage to throw this ball, because this is something that I complained about ceaselessly with Marcus Mariota, being that he needed to see somebody open before he would throw it.
Yep.
And Tannehill is willing to throw balls with anticipation, or knowing in this case that, hey, that linebacker has his back to me. He is not a threat to turn around and pick this ball off. Like, that is not a play that a linebacker is going to make running in coverage against the tight end like that down the seam. So he is going to fearlessly put this ball right where it needs to be. And I mean, you couldn't have run out and put that ball in Hooper's hands in a better place. It is a perfect throw, unbelievable play by
and
Tannenbaum.
It takes rapport, this kind of throw. These two guys have to be on the same page here, because if Hooper does not recognize the placement of this ball, get his body turned, I mean, look at this frame right here. If he's not there with his hands to stop that ball, it's falling right into the lap of the safety.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I've been critical of Hooper so far just because they gave him $6 million and he had
because he did nothing
catches
all year until this game. How dare you?
Before today. But this game, he absolutely showed up and made huge plays, and hopefully that's the turning of the corner for him right here, right? I mean, they need him. They need him. They need Chig to be producers in this passing game, especially while Burks and Phillips are on the mend. So I think it's very encouraging to see this kind of game from Austin Hooper and kind of hopefully get him on track and maybe building some confidence with him in this offense.
Well, that's going to do it for our free film portion of the show today. Enjoy everybody being here for the film room, and that's going to be the end of the road for everybody that is watching with us free on one of our flagship podcast feeds or watching on YouTube. If you want to see the rest of the show, and there's still a good 30, 40 minutes left for us to go through some really interesting topics that you're not going to hear, I don't think, anywhere else in the Nashville media market. And you're not going to get this Mike Herndon breakdown anywhere else. That's for sure. We're going to talk about a number of things with the Texans and the Titans coming up. A big pivotal game, even though the Texans are maybe the worst team in the league. Never can count them out in the AFC South. A divisional game is a divisional game, and the Texans have been pesky for the Titans. And the Titans' injury situation is another thing we'll get into. It may make things even more difficult. A lot to break down in that one. Of course, the stadium render came out since our last show, so we have some thoughts on the giant, amazing Whole Foods that Nashville is thinking about building for the Titans to play in. And then we've got some discussion on the trade deadline, which is quickly approaching, whether or not the Titans will make some moves. If they did, what our favorite options are and what we think they should or should not do. And then, of course, Moneymaker Mike. We've been making you money for a couple weeks in a row now. If you want to watch the rest of the show, you got to pay for it and become a Broadway Insider, but you're getting a refund. We're refunding you with betting advice in the paid portion of the show. So sign up, become a Broadway Insider, 99 cents for your first month when you use code INSIDER. And then after that, it's just the price of a trip to Starbucks a month. You can listen for your physique and for quality content consumption. Do that. Skip a Starbucks trip, take a Broadway Insider subscription, get all of our great content. Justin Mello, our guy who does a lot of writing all over the place, has been writing with us a lot recently. He's got a number of articles out this week that you have to be an insider to check out. We've got writing from me. We got writing from Zach Lyons of Football and Other F Words. A number of other writers that we've got on the docket here. We've got Preds coverage coming up. A ton of awesome stuff behind the paywall that you can get. You can also become an annual subscriber using code ANNUAL. Get your first year for $20 off the regular annual price. Just $49.99. Set it and forget it. All of that fantastic stuff can be yours if you become an insider today, as well as, of course, the rest of this show, which we're going to get into now for all of our free listeners. Thank you. We will see you again next week.